Hello and happy Friday, and thanks for tuning in to radiofreerhinecliff.org. This show in particular, correct me if I'm Norm, I'm your host, Norm, and I'm thrilled to be here tonight with Susan Ray. How you doing, Susan?
Hello, Norm.
And I looked you up on Facebook there, and it says Susan Ray Chikoyama.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you know about this? Did Facebook saddle you with a vaguely Japanese sounding other?
No, that's two names that were given to me by my teacher. One is an ordination name.
Okay. So you're ordained?
Yes.
As what?
I'm no longer, but I was ordained as a Zen nun.
Zen nun. And how does one cease being a Zen nun? It seems like the kind of thing that once you are, you sort of always would be.
Well, I suppose that's true, but I sent back my robes.
Oh, you did?
I did.
And so the robes are symbolic of you being sort of in the fold, or?
Well, when you ordain, you get robes.
Uh-huh. And so where did this happen? Where did you get ordained?
In California.
Uh-huh. In a particular branch of Zen?
Rinzai Zen.
And what is that, pray tell?
They call it the General's Zen. It's a lineage that's quite rigorous, and as opposed to Soto Zen, which is the mother's Zen, Rinzai Zen is the father's Zen. It's very disciplined.
So it's the general's Zen, the mother's Zen and the father's Zen. And how did you choose the general's Zen, or did it sort of choose you?
I think it probably the latter.
And well, how did that happen? Where did that happen?
How did that happen? It was after my husband had died, and I was at loose ends, and someone to whom I went for counsel suggested I go on retreat.
Uh-huh.
So I got the Whole Earth catalog, and I looked for retreats.
Really?
Yep.
I love that. What year is this?
Early 80s, very beginning of the 80s.
Where were you living at that point in time?
In the city.
Okay, New York City?
Yes, sir.
Uh-huh. Thanks. So I like the sir. So you're living in New York City, looked in the Whole Earth catalog because you're trying to heal from, I guess, the trauma of losing a husband.
Well, I wouldn't call it a trauma. It was a loss, a grief.
Right.
Trauma implies something different to me, but
okay.
It's a natural process.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I looked in the Whole Earth catalog, and I wanted the place that had the strictest meditation schedule.
Why?
Because I wanted to learn how to meditate.
Okay. And had you done any meditation prior to this?
I had, but nothing compared to what they did out
right.
At this place.
And had you done any sort of Buddhist practice prior to this?
I'd done a lot of reading, or a certain amount of reading, I think is fair to say. And I'd been exploring for a while, different paths.
And what attracted you to these? I assume you mean different Buddhist paths? Or just different paths in general?
Different paths of all kinds.
Right. And what were some of the other paths?
There was the Sufi path.
Okay.
There was a mosque in the city on, I think, if I remember right, on Mercer Street.
Uh-huh.
And what else? A Hindu path.
Wow.
Some New Age stuff. What else?
And had this exploration begun after your husband passed or before?
In the last couple of years of his life when he was sick, yeah.
Okay. And so he was sick, he knew he was sick. He saw the clock ticking. And the two of you together started looking in these spiritual directions.
Well, he joined AA.
Oh. Which is amazing.
It is amazing, and it was his spiritual direction, and it sort of awakened or reawakened something for me. Excuse me.
Being by his side as he went through these 12 steps.
Watching him change and watching him shed some stuff.
Well, I got to ask, what kinds of stuff did he shed?
He became more open, more. He was always open, even when he was drinking.
Right.
But he became more so. He became more humble, I would say.
And what did that do for your relationship?
Well, it made it easier.
Right. Yeah, it's I've seen people go through AA, and everybody I've seen go through it has had a spectacular time. Really have come through much more open and honest and owning their stuff, and it's been so good.
It teaches people how to be grown-ups.
Yeah, and then by extension, I had a friend one time I was going through a tough thing who shared all of his AA stuff with me. And after like a couple of years of getting these great gems of insight and wisdom, I was like, he was a goofy guy. I'm like, where do you get all this crap? And he said, oh, it's all AA stuff. It was so good to get sort of the, that his work shining onto me.
Okay.
What
did it do for you?
Well, they were little nuggets of insight and wisdom that really, I didn't write them down anywhere except on my heart, and they were incredibly helpful to have perspective. There were things that when he shared them with me really made a lot of sense, and that's it for me. Shit needs to make sense, and so I just took it in and left it there, and it was really helpful. But my question is, did you feel that as your husband was going through all that?
I did. He liked to go to what are called low bottom rooms, where people were literally just off the street, and they knew that they were fighting for their lives. So the level of honesty was quite high, and it was profound, and it was like a crisp, cool air running through the room.
And low bottom meaning like not too far off of rock bottom?
Yeah. I mean, what they say in the program is that you don't get sober until you hit your bottom, and some people are high bottoms and some people are low bottoms.
I see. Wow. And did you ever go with, I don't know this, or
many
spouses?
Times,
well,
many times. And I went on my own to other programs. Other 12-step programs.
Like Al-Anon kind of?
Al-Anon and adult children and...
Adult children of alcoholics.
Right.
So can you describe what Al-Anon is like for people listening and me?
Well, it's based on the same steps as AA, but it's for those who are living or affected by alcoholism in other people, and there are certain behaviors that arise in those people. We people trying to control the other person, the alcoholic, and trying to make them conform to what we think they should be.
Right.
So there are teachings, for lack of a better word, about how to let go and live. To accept, to not try and change your partner who's using drugs or alcohol or whatever. Mm-hmm. To not try and make them better. To not try and make them what you think they should be.
Right. And was that easy for you?
It made a lot of sense.
Right.
But it also it paralleled the Buddhist teachings that I was receiving, which were, you don't impose your will on anybody.
Right.
That's considered a real no-no.
And were there any parts of that were tough for you to accept? Any things you'd been doing that were hard to give up?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, good. Let's hear it.
Oh, I can't think that fast, but I mean, I came with my fair share of shit.
Yeah.
To clean up, so yes.
And Al-Anon and adult children of alcoholics were both.
All the programs were really helpful to me. They provided tools about how to negotiate the grown-up world,
right?
Which I didn't know how to do very well.
I loved that description of these things. How to be a grown-up.
Yeah.
which people now call like adulting. Adulting 101. You don't like that?
Yeah, no, not so much.
So you two got out of these programs and then started looking around at religions, in your neighborhood. Where were you living at that point in time?
In Soho.
Okay. You said one of them was on Mercer Street. So sort of like tooling around the neighborhood looking for this stuff. What year was this?
Late 70s, I would say. Nick
Okay.
died in 79, so it was late 70s, beginning of the 80s.
Right. Nicholas Ray, your husband at the time.
Right.
So you guys started, did you select, you exposed yourselves to all of them. How did you select Buddhism?
As I said, I wanted to learn how to meditate.
Okay.
I wasn't looking for a teacher. I wasn't looking for a community. I was learning how to sit with myself.
Right.
Be with myself.
And how did you learn?
By doing the way I learn anything.
Did you have any meditation teachers?
Well, the center where I studied had a Japanese Roshi, a Japanese Zen master,
Okay.
overseeing everything.
And some people have mantras, some people just pay attention to their breaths. What was your way into a meditative state?
Sit and breathe.
Sit and breathe, yeah. It's not super complicated, is it?
No,
And do you still have a meditation practice?
absolutely do.
Nice. And you're still involved in some some kind of Buddhism?
I still practice. I still study. I don't have a teacher anymore.
Uh-huh. And how did you said you didn't have a teacher when you first went in to start meditate. How did the teacher show up? I mean, they say when the student's ready, the teacher will appear.
Well, I went to this place that had the strictest meditation schedule
And so
and a controversial teacher.
what was the controversial about this teacher?
Well, I had to find out.
Yeah. And what does that mean?
I find controversial people are often the most interesting and they have the most to offer.
Uh-huh.
So I
And
wanted to know who he was.
you did. And so you want to know who it was. So it makes me think that you met with him, asked a bunch of questions, like maybe did you have romantic entanglement?
No.
No, nothing like that. And did you, when you found out who he was there a point where you're like, oh no, this is trouble. I need to not have any more trouble?
I don't know that I know who he was even to this day, but
That's tough. That's tough to not know who people are.
No, I think it's honest.
Do you not know who most people are in your life?
I may know how I experience them, but I don't necessarily know who they are.
Right. Interesting. Good answer. Something to think about. So you said he was controversial, and you came to figure that out.
That's not why I went there, but I was interested
No.
in it, yeah.
I assume you didn't know him at all before you went there.
No.
So you got there, you met this controversial person. And was Nick, the husband?
He was already dead.
Was he? No, but had he been a controversial figure?
Yes.
In what way?
Well, you have to talk to the people who found him controversial.
Well, they're not here, for crying out loud. Give me a little bit. Did those people say to you, "Oh my God, I wish he didn't do this," or "Why did he have to do that? That's not playing well in the public"? Because he was a public person, right?
Yeah, he was a person of large dimension
Right.
who you're going to have to give me a minute to think about
Take
what
all
people...
the time you
Thank
want,
you.
and I'll begin to make an announcement. A, thanks for bringing this sake. It's really delicious.
Oh, good.
B, if you're listening to this, come down to Rhinecliff to the fabulous Epicurean corner store right there, and it's First Friday. Were you aware of this, Susan? It's First Friday right here, and people are grilling dogs, milling about in the street. It's going to be a fabulous block party. So if you're listening, come down and support that. Every First Friday supports a particular charity. Who's the charity this month? Anybody know?
beautification.
Rhinecliff beautification. That's nice.
But can Rhinecliff get more beautiful?
That's a great point.
All right. So where were we? We were talking about you being attracted to controversial figures and Nick being this sort of like large person in the world. And he had his own controversy.
Well, let me put it this way. There are conventional standards for how one should behave. He did not necessarily adhere to those.
In which ways that spring to mind did he
for
transgress?
one thing, he was an alcoholic.
Right.
And sometimes quite messy in his behavior. He hadn't much tolerance for phoniness.
Right.
I think I'm sorry, I don't necessarily think very fast, but
It's okay.
what people call controversial, I find, is often what they just don't understand, and
Right.
what doesn't conform to normality.
Right.
So I'm always curious about it.
Right. And are you controversial in some way?
I don't know. I know people sometimes have trouble with me.
Uh-huh. I'm so curious. What kind of trouble?
You'll have to ask them.
Oh, come on. All right.
Matt, ask Matt.
Yeah.
Matt and I get along, I think.
But certain people will let you know, like, oh my God, you're always like this. Wish you
They
wouldn't
think
do
I'm
that.
too blunt
Okay.
or too sharp.
Uh-huh.
What else? I don't know.
Right.
I'm not very social,
Uh-huh.
and sometimes people take that personally.
Right. Which is, well, hopefully they can get over that.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
Yeah. That's good. So what do you say you don't go out much? Do you work a lot? You're not retired, as I understand it.
No, I can't be retired. I'm trying to finish a book, and please don't ask me what it's about.
Oh, come on. All right, fine. Susan Ray, thanks for coming, everybody. Have a good week. I'm kidding. Come on, give us a little bit of... It's all right, well, let me ask this. It was described in something that you wrote, presumably, as a novel/memoir.
I would call it an autobiographical novel.
Okay. So it's not completely true. It's like historical fiction.
I would say it's completely true, but it's not factual.
Okay. Help me out.
It's emotionally true.
Gotcha. It's like, what was that Picasso thing? Art is the lie that tells the truth.
There you go. Thank
Yeah.
you. Much more eloquent than I could
Well,
ever be.
Picasso, forget about it. So how far along are you?
Well, I thought I was close to finished. Now I don't. I think I have 6 months of really hard work
Wow.
if I apply myself.
And apply yourself. And are you disciplined?
About most things, but I do have trouble sometimes writing. I get blocked.
Right. And do you get blocked, or is it just more fun stuff to do?
I get blocked.
Okay. Huh. And how long do the blocks last? Are you in one now?
A minor one, and that I will get over.
I see. Well, how long have you been working on this novel memoir?
Off and on, mind you, because I do other jobs.
Uh-huh.
And I've done other things, but I would say a long time.
Like 10 years?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what happened that made you think, oh, crap, I'm not nearly as close to completion as I had dreamed I was?
I began to see some of the issues that I wanted to address that weren't addressed as yet.
Okay. They're just, holes in this thing.
Yeah.
Huh. Wow. When you're not blocked, do you enjoy the process of writing?
Sometimes very much, as much as anything.
And do you enjoy the process of editing?
Yes,
Right.
very much.
And you like that better than writing?
It's a lot easier.
It is, isn't it? And do you write on a computer?
I do.
Like
Mostly because I can't read my writing.
like a Word doc? Word,
Yeah.
Word, that program? It's nice cutting and pasting and editing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you have backups of all of your files?
Yes, sir.
Good. All of a sudden, I'm the scolding parent. Well, that's good because shit crashes all the time. It's such a pain in the butt. And you work on a Mac or a PC?
A Mac.
Uh-huh. In which is the computer of choice for artists, really. And you've been an artist for most of your life, as far as I can tell online. You were an editor, a writer, a director, a producer. You've been...
That sounds very grand. I'm not quite so grand.
well, I picked them all out. But, you have... I mean, it's all kinds of artistry in those things.
I'm involved in self-expression.
Right. Which I would say is probably a fine definition of an artist.
Okay.
All right, good. and your husband was an artist?
Definitely.
Definitely.
Although he would say that's for other people to say.
Right. Well,
that's what his mother would say.
Uh-huh. And where did his mother live? Where was he raised?
In La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Oh, boy. Where were you raised?
Outside of New Haven, Connecticut.
Okay. And then how did you two meet?
At the Chicago conspiracy trial.
When was that?
You don't know?
Well, I'm going to guess 1968.
69, 70.
Okay.
Yeah. It was after the riots, the Chicago riots in Grant Park. You want to look it up?
No, it's not on any of these pieces of paper here. History is not my strong suit.
Mine neither.
So you were both at a protest?
No, he was at the protest. I met him when I was at school in Chicago. And somebody I had worked for before asked me to do some research. He was going to write a book about the trial. So I got a press pass to the trial, and I went every day instead of going to my classes.
What were your classes in? What were you studying?
Myth and history.
Wow. Myth and sounds a little like Joseph Campbell.
Well, he was at another school at the time.
Right. But he was a thought leader in that realm, even in
yes.
the early 70s, I think. Myth and history. So did you finish your studies?
No, I dropped out.
Right.
As quick as I could.
And how come? Why as quick as you could?
It was... I didn't want to be in school. I didn't want to sit as a professor lectured me. I wanted hands-on experience.
Right. And so you got it, seems like.
I got it.
And so what happened that you two met?
We were introduced by Bill Kunstler, who was the attorney for the defense.
Sure. Renowned civil rights attorney.
Yes.
Right. And did you both know Bill Kunstler?
Well, when you're at the trial every day, you kind of get to know everybody. Everybody eats at the same breakfast joint or lunch joint.
Right. And how was the trial resolved? What happened?
There were contempt charges for the defendants. I'm ashamed to say I don't remember exactly how it panned out.
Right. And the defendants were who? Like Abby Hoffman?
Hoffman, Jerry Rubin.
Right.
Dave Dellinger.
Yippies.
Tom Hayden.
Right.
Bobby Seale.
Right. And it was contempt because they were causing quite a stink.
They felt the trial was a joke, and so they turned it into a circus.
Right.
And so it was highly entertaining as well as very interesting.
And did you laugh a lot during the trial? I can't imagine a judge would enjoy laughter in their courtroom.
Not this judge. Certainly not. No, it wasn't a laugh out loud kind of humor.
Right. But sometimes the laughs you can't help are the church giggles when you're not allowed to laugh and you can't help it.
I don't remember.
Right. Do you remember who the judge was?
Yeah. Julius Hoffman.
Uh-huh. Who was just this,
He looked like Mr. Magoo.
oh boy, Mr. Magoo. I loved Mr. Magoo. So how long did it last that you were on this case?
It lasted from, I think, November of 69 into February of 70.
Right. A good long time. And you met your husband-to-be.
He was making a film
Okay.
about the trial, so he was in and out of the courtroom a lot.
Right. Huh. And did he finish that film?
No. The funding dried up.
Why do you think that happened?
Well, at the time, there was a way of funding a film through, God, what is it called? Tax shelter. And the laws changed
Okay.
in the middle of the film.
Right.
So his funders withdrew.
Certainly the establishment was not eager to have that film made.
No, but it wasn't, I don't think it was specific to Nick. It was
Right.
the funding, the tax shelters just disappeared.
And had he made other movies prior to this?
Nick?
Yeah. I know the answer, but the listeners may not.
Yeah, he made a few movies.
Yeah, how'd they do?
I guess they did okay.
Right. And what were some of the movies that he made prior to you two meeting?
Well, most people would know Rebel Without a Cause or
James
Knock on
Dean.
Any Door
Uh-huh.
or with Bogey.
Uh-huh.
In a Lonely Place, also with Bogart.
Right.
Lusty Men with Mitchum. Bitter Victory with, God, what's his name? He was married to Elizabeth Taylor. Richard Burton.
Oh, Richard Burton. So these, you just like rattled off like 4 or 5 of the most handsome actors of that era.
Well,
And and what a great career he'd had.
it was a fraught career.
How so?
He was an outsider in Hollywood. He was a rebel and he was controversial.
Right, there you go. And you like him controversial.
I do.
So
Or I did. I don't know whether I could do it now.
yeah, when's the last time you met a controversial person, you think?
You ask good questions, Norm.
Well, thanks. Take all the time you want.
I don't know.
Right. And what do you think it is that's especially attractive about controversial people? Is it that they're marching to their own drummer?
Yeah. A level of honesty, a level of
Right.
risk.
Right. And it sounds like you had, at that point, you were engaged in kind of risky, career choices. You can drop out of college. I'm going to like cover this trial.
You know, one does what one needs to do. I didn't think of it in terms of risky or no risk.
Right. There you go. Were your parents happy with these choices?
No.
These are the parents outside of New Haven, is that what you said? And what did they say?
They were very unhappy with me,
Right.
but they had been unhappy with me for a long time.
When did that start?
I'm not quite sure.
Right. Did you enjoy high school? Were you, it's the 60s. You were in high school in 65 or 66, right? I mean, America was in turmoil, but also there was this big change in the air. I was 5 or 6 years old, but it seemed like a fresh air of wild freedom.
I don't know that it was all of that, but it was different, I think.
Uh-huh. And were you to some degree swept away by?
No, that's what was so puzzling. I wasn't a wild child.
Right.
But I just didn't do it the way they wanted me to.
Right. Because they wanted you to be safe
I think so.
and make safe choices,
Yeah.
which are rarely like following your heart.
Right.
Right. So did you have siblings?
I did. I have a brother.
Uh-huh. And where is he? Is he still with us?
He is, knock on wood. He's in the Washington area.
Uh-huh. And is he politically active?
No.
Huh. Well, it's...
I mean, for one thing, he's now in his 80s.
Right. Okay, so big brother.
Big brother, and he's in his own world in a way.
And how so? What does he do?
He's a psychiatrist.
Oh, that's nice. Which is, sometimes controversial.
Yes, he was very controversial, apparently.
Uh-huh. Wow. And did you ever find out how? In what ways he was controversial?
I don't feel free to talk about him.
Okay.
I want to honor him that way.
Right. So sweet.
What does that say?
The producers have passed me a confidential note, Susan.
Oh, well, I like confidence.
Yeah. We'll start ponying up some deeper answers. The note they gave was that there was a big age difference between you and your husband.
40 years, yes.
That's pretty big. How old were you? Were 18 or 19?
3 days after my 18th birthday, I met him.
Wow. And he was how old?
57.
At that point in time?
Yes.
Wow. Well, so that's that's an interesting thing. When you fell in love, and what are you going to do? I mean,
I started working with him first, working
Right.
for him.
Uh-huh.
And he had an incredible gift for bringing out hidden parts of people's talents, and I'd never been seen before, so it was a real luxury.
Right. What a treat.
Yeah,
What a fabulous thing. May everybody experience that in their lives.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It would be a different world.
Right. So were you, I got to ask this, I'm dating a woman now who's a lot younger, not that kind of an age gap, but young enough to have me think, I'm 65 now, like, well, soon enough, I'm going to be gone. Like, what are you going to do? And I bring this up to her. I'm like, I'm going to die 20 years or 30 years before you. And she's not concerned, but I am. Was he concerned about his demise, predeceasing you?
I think subliminally, not overtly.
Right.
He liked young people. He didn't like old people.
Right. Huh. Well, but did you all discuss that? That someday, he'd be gone and you'd remain?
No, we didn't. I'm sorry we didn't, but we didn't.
And why do you say sorry?
I think it's good to air these things.
Right. So one of you was thinking about that. I'm guessing you.
Well, you don't hook up with a man 40 years older without thinking that he might die before me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one never knows, but yeah, of course you think that. So how's it been? You've been a widow for 40 some years. Is that right? Is my math right on this?
Yeah.
50
maybe.
years?
20, 45, yeah.
45 years. That's a long time. Have you had other romances in that stretch?
A couple.
Uh-huh.
Not many. At a certain point, I decided no more.
And why?
Because I wanted to write, and I was blocked, and I knew it was going to take a lot of energy to overcome it. And I decided that's what I wanted to do.
You prioritized your life.
Yeah.
And thought, well, before you go, you want to finish these things. And
Right. And I what's out there?
the people coming and going for First Friday, paying their money, getting a hot dog and a beer, and supporting the cleanup.
Beautification.
Beautification. Thank you.
Beautification of the beautiful Rhinecliff.
Yeah. All right. So back to your art, your writing. You've also made a couple of documentaries. Is that
I've
right?
made one documentary.
And what was that?
It was about the making of Nick's last film, which was an experimental film that he made with his students.
Right. And where was he teaching?
Harper College, State University of New York at Binghamton.
Oh, in Binghamton?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, he says in one of these things I saw, and I loved it so much, he said, Fortunately, and he's got a good voice in this documentary. Fortunately, I was offered a job in an upstate New York university. I decided I'd buy a crooked cane, grow a goatee, wear a crooked smile, and impress them with my rhetoric, rebellion, and ponderosity. I'd never heard that word before, ponderosity. And it was just such a good sentence. You know it because you put it into.
He was a good writer.
Yeah. Yeah. Did he talk that way?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, lots of people write in a whole different tone of voice than how they speak.
No.
Right. Well, so that must have been kind of a treat to have somebody, speaking in such beautiful language.
I appreciated him more and more after his death.
Oh.
There was a lot I didn't get when I was with him. I
Right.
didn't fully appreciate how rare a creature he was.
Right. Huh. And the experimental film that he made with students up there was called We Can't Go Home Again, right? And you can see it, I happen to know for a fact. You can see it online. Search for it in Google, and it'll tell you where you can see it. One of the sites, I forget what it's called, says free. You watch a couple of ads, and then you get to watch the whole movie. I'm like 2/3 the way through.
It's a piece of work. It's hard to watch, I know.
It's fucking
but
nuts.
I'm a little nervous about it being for free. I have to check that out.
Yeah. Well, if you want, I'll try and go back and take a screen grab of
I'll
this.
find it.
Yeah. It was all the normal places, YouTube Premium, Hulu or whatever. But then it was this one place free. I'm like, that's not going to be free. I'll have to sign up. But no, it was free. It broke for advertising.
I'll check it out.
A few times. Well, what should it be? Like, not free.
Well, there are distributors for it. So there's certain strictures around its distribution.
Right. And are the distributors, allowed to sell it to whoever they want?
Yeah, preferably for some money.
Right. Well, the advertisers in this thing are certainly paying some money. Do you make any money off of these films?
Haven't so far.
And you said earlier you have other jobs in addition to the writing. What are some of your other jobs?
I edit. I do editing.
Video editing.
No. Text.
Oh, text.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have a part-time food business, cleanse business.
What business?
Cleanse.
Oh, like, a cleanse. People do like whatever tomato juice cleanses or
not quite.
Whatever.
But something you got the idea.
But people do cleanses to cleanse their system and get the toxins out and stuff like that. And what is your cleanse product made from? Which ingredients can you share? Not the special.
Organic fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds.
And where can people buy this cleanse concoction?
Have it delivered to them.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Where we're sitting right here in the fabulous Epicurean corner store in Rhinecliff, New York, they sell stuff that's hyper-local. I think it's within 100 miles or something. And most of it, I suspect, because I look at the labels trying to catch them out on something, is like within 20 miles. And you should get your stuff in here. Does it have to be refrigerated? Well, what's the shelf life of these cleanses?
1 day.
Wow.
They're made the cleanses are made between 3 and 6 in the morning, and they're out the door by 6:30.
Wow. And you say out the door, do you have a driver who comes and...
When I can find somebody.
And when you can't,
I deliver myself.
Oh, you do? Wow. Are you naturally up at 3 a.m.?
Well, with the kind of training I went through at the Zen Center, I was up at 3 a.m.
Right.
So it's not a huge challenge for me.
Right. And then what time do you go to sleep?
Early.
Like 7?
If I'm up before 3 o'clock, I'll go to bed at 7. I will.
Right. Yeah, I try to stay up till 9.
Yeah, 9 o'clock. It's 8 or 9.
Yeah. So do you take this cleanse yourself?
Sometimes.
Often? And how often do you reckon people should take this?
You know, the whole idea is for people to learn how to listen to their own bodies, because everybody has a different system.
Yeah.
And the idea is to tune into it. And
was your initial interest in this based upon some learning you had from, some
I've been
Buddhist-
interested in it for 50 years.
Right.
So I had a friend who was very knowledgeable about food and nutrition, and she kind of turned me on to cleansing and juicing and all those good things.
Yeah.
And I like to indulge myself, so this is how I repair the damage.
And what does the indulging look like?
I like sweet things. I like cheese. I like sake.
The sake is really yummy. So those things, do they require some kind of cleanse afterwards for most people?
If you accumulate enough toxins, it makes you sick. And
Right.
it also changes your mental condition,
Right. Right. So
your clarity,
So it sounds like you're really taking care of yourself pretty well. The meditation and the cleansing and the juicing,
there was a lot to take care of.
a lot of toxins to wash out of your system.
Yeah.
And at what point did you stop? It sounds like you haven't quite stopped ingesting the toxins.
No, I'm still indulgent.
It's good. So you're just paying the piper with
Attempting to.
Yeah, that's good. Are you keeping up it, or you're not losing the battle? You look great.
Oh, that's very kind, but I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, I'm guessing from the timeline of
I'm 73 years old.
I was going to guess 73. Yeah.
You're good at math.
No, I'm just making it up. I would have guessed much younger, of course. But you probably get that a lot.
Not really.
Right. and how did you all, so I mean, you said, did you go up to the Binghamton area with Nick?
I would go up for long weekends. I had a job in the city, and so I'd go up. I'd work 4 days a week, and then I'd go up to visit.
Uh-huh. And what kind of job were you doing at that point in time?
Initially, I was working for a real estate investor, and then I started working in publishing.
Right. And is that where you started becoming an editor?
That's in the genes. My mother was an editor,
Oh, nice.
among other things.
Uh-huh. And your dad, what did he do?
Lawyer.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So you'd go up there, a few days a week from your day job in the city. How did you all, did he ever live here in Rhinebeck?
No.
Well, then how did you end up in Rhinebeck?
Well, I lived across the river. I moved after the monastery, after my first 2 years in the monastery, I moved upstate to Saugerties. And I lived there for about 25 years. And then
Wow.
when I moved, then I needed a bigger place than the one I was living in, and I found the house here.
Uh-huh. Nice. Why did you need a bigger place?
From all the film that I had been working with to make the documentary and to finish Nick's film.
Right. And Nick's film is finished?
It's finished and out. You've been watching it for free.
You've been watching some of it. Well, that's good. And your documentary on that film, is that finished?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I didn't find that.
It's called Don't Expect Too Much.
Right. I found the title, but I didn't find the film.
Well, good. I'm glad that's not for free.
And how did you come up with that title, Don't Expect Too Much?
From Nick.
Uh-huh.
It's a line he says in the film. He says, don't expect too much from a teacher.
Right.
Don't expect too much.
Yeah, and his film, We Can't Go Home Again, is I mean, was it groundbreaking at the time?
I think it still is.
It's really nuts. I mean, there's all these, I mean, just the sound and the dialogue, it's a little bit, it's not as it's not a clean narrative visually or verbally.
They made it with, they had no money.
But in any
and no skills.
but at any given point, there's like, anywhere from 2 to like 5 images on a screen.
Right.
And, when was this made? Late 70s?
70, I think 71 through 74.
Early 70s. So there wasn't a lot of stuff like that out there.
There wasn't a lot of stuff like that out there. There still isn't a lot of stuff like that.
No. Though I'm saying computer editing has made it easier.
A lot easier and a lot cheaper.
Right. But at the time, working with film to get those effects
Very
was
expensive, very, very time-consuming, very exigent, technically.
right. And did he get a lot of acclaim for the production values, the things he was doing?
From some people, and other people thought he was nuts.
Right. Right. Like how come you can't do another movie with Bogey?
Like that. There's an example of controversy.
Right. But which coincides with somebody being true to themselves.
Well, he had a vision of how film should work.
Right. And did he feel that this film was a success?
No.
In what ways did he think it failed?
Well, for one thing, he wasn't able to finish it. For another thing, he got lost in it because he was in it and he didn't know how to work with himself as an actor. He didn't know what his part should be.
Right.
He was not satisfied with it, no.
And so who did finish it?
Well, it's not really finished. It can't be finished.
Okay.
But it's been restored, and it's a 93-minute experience.
Right. And you are the president and creative director at the Nicholas Ray Foundation.
Yes, sir.
And I'm guessing you started that.
I started the foundation to finish that film, to restore that film and reconstruct it.
Right. And it sounds like a labor of love.
I felt it was an important thing to do. It wasn't just for Nick. I just felt it was an important piece of work.
An important piece of art.
Yeah.
How sweet. What a beautiful thing. Did he know that you were planning to do this?
He left it to me, so he must have hoped I would do something with it.
Right. And you probably have an enormous archive of film and stuff.
No, because, when Nick was working in Hollywood, the conditions in Hollywood were very different. He didn't own his own films.
Oh, right. The studios owned them.
Right.
But all the how many other films had he made? How many independent films?
How many independent films?
Yeah. How many films that you really expressed his peculiar or controversial?
Well, I think he did put himself in all of them in some form.
Right.
But except for We Can't Go Home Again, there was a pornographic film he made called More Wet Tears.
More Wet Tears?
No, is that what it was? More Wet Dreams, excuse me.
That's in a different section of the video store, isn't it? And so did you help him make that film?
No, he made that all with some people in Amsterdam. I was in New York at the time.
Were you aware he was making a porno?
He always wanted to make a porno film.
So, and did it have an interesting plot?
It was a short film.
Just long enough for some, not long enough for others. And you saw it. Did you think it was well made?
I don't know how to answer that question. I really don't.
What did you think when you saw your hubby's porno?
It was just another expression of who he was and what he was into.
Right. But, previously, you've been married and he was into you and you had some idea of what he was into. Was it shocking at all?
No.
No.
He was very honest about his interests.
Right. Well, now I got to go check that out. I hope that's for free somewhere online.
I don't know. I didn't look.
No comment. And have you digitized most of his files? That seems like a thing that people do.
I've digitized a lot of them, but this was now 15 years ago. They have to be redigitized, and I didn't get to all of them either.
Right. Redigitized from, the film, or did he ever shoot video?
Film and video.
Right. Huh. And why do they need to be redigitized? Because after a number of years...
They wear out.
Huh.
And also, the technology has changed. What was... the gauges have changed. Now they're digitizing, I think, in 6K, right? The most we could do back then was 4K.
Right, which is huge.
It was huge then, but it isn't anymore.
Right. So you all met at this trial of the Yippies and all those people, and for trial for contempt. Were you always a politically active couple?
I'm not.
Oh, you're not?
I'm not politically active. I'm politically curious and politically, right now, very curious. But I'm not. And I will go to No More Kings on June 14th.
Right.
I will.
And where will you do that? It's probably going to be everywhere.
Kingston.
Okay, Kingston will be the big one. That's sort of the epicenter right here. I'm sure there'll be something on the corner in
There is
Rhinebeck.
something in Rhinebeck. There's something in, yeah.
And will you make a sign, or do you have a sign you bring to these
I
things?
may make a sign. I made a sign for the last one.
What was the sign you made for the last one?
I don't remember.
Right. That's nice. So, and your husband, Nick, was he politically curious as well?
He was observant and thoughtful, but he was too much of a, how do you express this? He certainly had feelings about things and who was evil and who was not, but he
Right.
was more interested
Right.
as someone interested in human nature.
Right. Huh. And did he get along with your folks?
They met only once when Nick was close to death.
Okay. So that seems like maybe they
No.
weren't so interested.
No, they weren't.
Was he, I guess he would have been about the same age, or maybe even
He
older
was the
than your
same
folks.
age as my father.
Right. And what did your dad say about that? He said, no, you can't date a guy that's my age.
Well, they were clearly unhappy,
Right.
but they didn't know what to do with me.
And did Nick and your brother get along?
They met only once.
Wow. And
My brother was... We had an evening. We went to a concert and we had dinner, the three of us. And my brother was impressed, but basically didn't... I come from a strange family. What can I say? They're very conventional.
very conventional. And as many families are, I would say my folks were pretty conventional. I mean, they had their own, little petty nuttinesses, but,
Petty what?
nuttiness.
Oh.
But, fairly conventional. I feel somehow that families are becoming less conventional over the years.
I don't know.
Right.
Not having a family myself, I don't know.
Right. Huh. Did you think at some point you would? Did you and Nick think maybe you'd have children? No.
No, I knew Nick would not be a good dad.
How so?
Well, he had 4 children. I saw that he was not a good father. He didn't.
Oh, he had 4 kids of his own.
Yeah.
Wow. And are you in touch with them?
Well, 2 of them are dead.
Oh, boy.
And I'm in touch with the others periodically, mostly to send them money
Yeah.
from whatever money comes in from Nick's work.
Right. So they get some portion of that.
It's not a lot, I'm afraid.
Right. But you're getting by. So when did you leave Socrates and come here?
2012.
Right. That's nice. And are you here in Rhinecliff?
Yes.
Here in the hamlet? And you moved straight to Rhinecliff? You in the same house you got in 2012? That's nice. And you seem to like the house, the smile on your face and the twinkle in your eyes.
I rarely leave it.
That's great. That's great. Are you within walking distance of the?
Yes.
Did you walk here tonight?
I didn't,
Right.
because I had to pick up a package at the post office. I didn't know how big it was going to be.
Right. So 2012, that's a while. What is that, 13 years or so? How has the Hamlet changed since you've been here?
I think it's more of a community now. And there have been some very wondrous efforts at making it so, from the store and from the library.
Right. Yeah, both just amazing forces for community
Really,
here in Rhinecliff.
very positive, very sweet.
Right. Are there things you miss about the Rhinecliff of yore?
Well, I'm sort of a recluse, so
So no. Do you listen to the radio in your reclusiveness? It's tough for writers, I think, to have words floating by.
thank you. It is.
Right.
So I don't often.
Right.
I do listen to the news. I feel an obligation to know how our country is falling apart, but
Yeah. Well, good for you. It is a sacred obligation of people here in this so-called democracy. Well, thank you so much for coming in. We're out of time.
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's been a treat. And oh wait, this is on video. I was going to
Oh
say,
no!
people.
Oh, not really.
Well, there's a protest form that you can fill out in triplicate. You need to get it notarized. You need to do it from a psychiatrist. Anyway, we're out of time. Thank you so much, Susan Ray Chikoyama. Do you ever use the Chikoyama apart from
He's Chico.
Chico? This is
That's
so
my
cute.
nun's name.
Nuns, ex-nun, Susan Ray Chico. Thank you so much for being here. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Have a great Friday night. Have a fabulous weekend. Thanks to Jen and Matt for helping us
Thanks
out. And
to
of course,
all three
Patricia
of you.
for giving us the space. Bye. Bye, Susan.
Bye.
Thank you.
you.